Hello everybody, we are Alter Confusion. We are an independent video game review and news website out of Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Charlie Hawkins, this is Jesse Gelbaum. I once upon a time was in the game industry, and I still interact with the game industry almost on a daily basis. So today's panel is how to get into the video game industry. First off, how many people have actually made their own game? Awesome. Have you made it to completion, or is it still in prototype? Completion? Awesome. Okay, so once upon a wondrous time, your knowledge of coding was enough to get you in the game industry. Unfortunately, because of the number of constant studio closures, you kind of need to ramp up a little bit more of what you're able to do. One of the best things I could say right off the bat is create your own game. Create your game from start to finish. Because if you show a prototype to a potential employer now, they're like, well, that's nice, but I want to see what the game's really going to be like. In a lot of industries, you can give out a standard resume. Never do this for the game industry, because they will see it. They will be like, wow, this person really isn't all that interested in my company. He's probably sent this out to 20 other places, so you probably won't even get an interview. So tailor your resumes to each game company. Also, know how to dress. I can't stress that enough. There are companies out there that if you show up in coat and tie, they will literally show you the door immediately, won't even walk you into the meeting room. This is a different industry. It's a relaxed industry. Dress like business casual, and you should be fine.
When it comes to resumes, I mean, really that's where it starts off. Your best bet is to research the companies ahead of time. Try to find out what each company is looking for. And when you find that, that's what you put at the top of your resume. They're going to start reading all the way down, and they're not going to remember what all that junk you've done and experiences. They want to know what can you do for them now. Put that at the top. One of the problems that people find with resume building today, and this is especially important not just for video game industry, but for every industry, is people try to put everything they've ever done in their entire life on their resume.
I'm going to tell you right now that if you had taken a programming language, say 7 years ago, and you haven't touched it, do not put it on your resume. Because chances are, if they do like you and it turns out to be that language, they're going to find out really quick, and they are going to drop you like a bad habit.
I'm qualified in BASIC. I took a BASIC class in 2000. I'm qualified in BASIC.
Right, no.
I'm a teacher.
If I wanted to flesh out my resume with every single programming language I have ever done, which I would never do, but just for shits and giggles, excuse me, pardon my language, COBOL, Pascal, Visual Basic, Basic, C++, Python, Lua, Java, J2ME, Brew, just to name a few.
Brew.
Huh?
Someone else knows Brew.
Yeah. Well, once upon a time when I was in the industry, I was actually a cell phone developer before the smartphone revolution. So I made one game. I helped create one game and then make 10 different copies of that game, depending on the cell phone that you have, the screen size, the resolution, whatever. Another thing is, the best way to get into the game industry is through basically the basement. And what I mean by basement is QA. QA is not fun. It is not where you get to play your favorite games 24/7 and you become a huge part of a team. You are going to be tasked with potentially trying to break the load screen or the main menu for a game for a month straight, 8 hours a day. That's the harsh reality. And chances are it's probably not going to be on a game you want to mess with. I have a colleague who his first QA job was with, oh man, I can't remember who had it, but they basically had the Mattel contract. And so he was doing Barbie games for 3 years. before he can move on. Now, another thing you have to be aware of when you go into QA, QA does not pay well. We're talking $21,000 a year before taxes, up to, if you're lucky, 26. If you do take a QA job, please do not just do that. With your free time, which you're going to have very little of, but with your free time, create your own game. It doesn't have to be digital. That's another thing that I stress. It does not have to be digital, but it has to be polished. If you have a phenomenal idea, you don't have the programming skills, but you've got the game design brains to make like a tabletop game with miniatures and stuff, do that. Flesh it out. Bring in the rule book, because they're going to love that stuff. They're going to eat it up, and chances are they'll probably try to buy the idea from you if it's good enough, and then you'll probably get a really bad contract. But still, your game will see the light of day. I mean, that's a plus.
I mean, and there's all aspects of the video game industry, and one of the things that's very good for people who are doing artwork or voiceover stuff is that there are loads of people who are trying to make a video game, and you might want to reach out to those types of people and say, I do artwork or I do voiceover things. They may not be able to pay you, but one of the ways that you can break into your side of the industry is to be able to help other people do their stuff and get that stuff in there, because as always, it's about building your resume. They always want to see that you are doing something and building on it and going more into depth. So even if you can do something for free, and I hate doing things for free because people need to survive and make money, you've got to be like, you know what, I'm going to take a hit on this one, I'm going to do voice work or artwork for this person and try to get that out there. Charlie and I at least go to meetings every other week, and at these meetings there are people with weird iPhone games or iPad games where they've got voiceovers, and some of the voiceover work is not good. And if you know you are good, help these people out, because not only does it promote you, it promotes them as well, because they can get out there and show that their product is a good product. And that's all about it. It's about making a good product and showing that you have a good product, because eventually then you can make a better product.
And one thing that you have to understand is that your game, if you create a game, that's only half the product. You are not only selling your game, you're selling yourself. And so if you don't, present yourself as a confident person, showing off this amazing game, that's going to work against you. Going into voiceovers, if you want to become a voice actor, there are several different organizations that can help you get into that part of the industry. The only thing that I warn about, and because I've talked to several people who do voice work, if you're going to do voice work, use your own voices. Do not try to copy, don't try to sound like Homer Simpson or Peter Griffin from Family Guy, or
Fred Flintstone, who was just Jackie Gleason, but Fred Flintstone went on for a while.
I'm trying to think of a video game. There's just so many.
Mark Hamill.
Yes, Mark Hamill. That's weird though, because like Mark Hamill, you can't. He sounds so different. Like I looked it up in some credits. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's that's how he's been getting paid.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well. Yeah, Tim Curry. Yeah, Tim Curry. Holy crap, he's put his voice over everything. But that's the thing. If you make up unique voices. Do not try to copy anybody, because you try to copy people, are like, well, we've already got like 16 other people who do that exact same voice. They're not going to be interested in it. It doesn't. If you are not an artist, don't let that stop you from making your game. You're basically showing what it looks like with your limited resources, and they'll understand. It's not like you have to be the best well-rounded individual known to man. If you can successfully show off your expertise, that goes a long way. But like I said, if you're going into QA, one of the best ways to assure that you can get into QA is do beta testing, which is the free stuff. Video game companies are always looking for beta testers. It's really hard to get into some closed betas, but if you could do that, that looks even better. You don't put it on your resume, but you talk about it when you go into the interview, because they're going to ask you, do you have any beta experience? Yes, I did the closed beta for Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars 2, Firefall, Lord of the Rings Online, and...
Did you get in Star Wars as well?
No, that was
Our third member.
Our third member. So I mean, we're reporters, so we kind of have a itty bitty little edge on that. But seriously, there's a lot of companies out there who just have a. If you're interested in any future beta, sign up. Do it. Get to know other people in your area. There's a lot of organizations around. In Georgia, there's the Georgia Game Developers Association. Most states have the International Game Developers Association chapter of that. Atlanta's got one, Savannah's got one, Charlotte's got one, and get involved with them, because they're, first of all, they're educational. They can teach you about new programming code out there, new art programs. They're probably going to cost you an arm and a leg, but maybe you can get a student discount, fingers crossed. And then you can also find like-minded individuals that might be able to help you make your dream game, in whatever context you want it to be. So, I guess to kind of come full circle, you have to put in the time before you can get in the industry. It's not as easy as it once was. You can't literally just throw your resume down. When you go in, and let's say you get a QA job and then you get a programming job, that does not mean that you can't move around. You can still be an artist if that's what you really want to do. If you want to focus on level design, you can do that. It's just, you've got to be willing to sacrifice. And it's a lot of the sacrifice is time, friends. You're not going to see your friends very much during certain parts of your development in the game industry, and life in general. I mean, there are a lot of companies out there whose standard work week is 50 to 60 hours. And you may be, if you're working QA, chances are your schedule will not be 9 to 5. It could be 5 to 1 a.m. I mean, it really depends on how much they're trying to push this game out, what kind of mode they're in. If they're in crunch mode, then you're probably going to, hopefully it's going to be a short time. There's a company called Tripwire. They made Red Orchestra 1 and 2, a game called The Ball, Killing Floor, and for Red Orchestra 2, they had a 8-month-long crunch period, which is a big no-no. You're only allowed to have up to 2 months, but 8 months of 80-hour weeks, and I'm surprised that they all survived, but they did, and that's something that can happen. And of course, EA is notorious for doing that as well, and not paying you overtime.
We actually met somebody earlier who they were talking about a friend who got into EA, and it was probably one of those things where they were trying to hire people as fast as they could, and they forced them to work like slave hours. I don't mean to use that badly, but I apologize.
Unfortunately, with the bigger companies, the terminology of burn them and turn them is in full swing. They are going to grind you into the ground. If you survive and you can excel, phenomenal. But about 80% of the programmers they have a life expectancy of 5 years in the industry, and they're so burnt out, they've got to find something else. Yes, sir.
With the larger companies, you also have to worry about the programmer tests.
Yes.
That a lot of companies, I learned very quickly that some companies just want code monkeys.
Oh yeah.
And they'll give you a programmer test and not even care about your answer. They're just checking off boxes.
Right.
And they give some of the worst, horrible questions to test your programming skill.
Oh yeah.
Just to try to see.
Well, those tests are to try to trip you up. They're trying to figure out if you're going to be able to function in this weird environment. I took a programming test, and unfortunately, once upon a time when I was a programmer, I programmed unorthodoxly. And so if you try to do like a standard, write a block of code, and then you try to check it against the normal way of doing it, I never got it right. In AP Computer Science, I got a 1. But if you actually were to look at my test, my long answers compared to other people, it still worked. It just wasn't the way that they were expecting. So whatever. Questions about industry specifics, anything like that? Yes, sir.
I have absolutely very minimal programming skill. I'm not going to invent a game. What are these companies? How do I get into these companies' doors to say, hey, I can do voiceover work?
Your best way is probably through an organization. When you're talking about bigger companies, or
Actually, anybody. Like that guy. Wildly pointed.
right. To be honest with you, you just got to get your name out there. You got to reach out to probably the independent branch. There's a bunch of independent developers who have a Facebook page. There's a ton of different websites that try to host independent company information. Just reach out. They usually have like a wanted section, and then you can reach out that way. If you want to get into like bigger stuff, then you definitely have to join an organization, because there's a lot of there is a lot of different companies, and a lot of the bigger name companies will only work through those organizations. They won't work through individuals.
Hey y'all, any of you all making video games? My name is Tom Gore. Find me on Facebook. Tom Gore, all 7 letters. Picture looks just like me. And I have very many unique and distinct voices. Sometimes I actually don't stutter. But if you have something down, send me a script and I can send it to you on a mastered, recorded, on digits, so you can just transport it on whatever format you need.
And when it comes to voice acting and art, that's what you literally have to do. You've got to go to places that have meetups, find your local groups, and just say, this is what I've got. We've had people do that with video games. We once played this deer running game that was
Unique.
It was interesting, right? But at least that person was there with their iPad to say, I made this game, look at it, what can you do for me? Because that's part of the business is, it's a very unorthodox business. You got to go about it in unorthodox ways to get into it.
There is the Southeast Interactive Game Expo that's happening in October in Atlanta. It's sponsored by the Georgia Game Developers Association. There are a ton of independent developers and local companies that will be walking around that you could probably chat up, try to get information about, see if they're interested in a programmer, QA tester, voice actor, all that stuff. 2 companies I know off the top of my head that would have the potential for voice acting would be CCP. They're the guys behind EVE Online and soon World of Darkness, and also Dust 514 for the PlayStation 3. And the other company is Tripwire Interactive. They're working on a new title that they're not allowed to talk about yet. Actually, you know what? 3 companies, because High Res Studios in Alpharetta.
What was that company we saw 2 weeks ago putting out their game?
That is Xavier.
Xavier might also have it as well, because they're still working on their codes.
Yeah, they're not quite to the voice.
They're not quite to the voice yet, but they'll should be to the voices soon.
If you are going to be a level designer, my recommendation is that you buy a copy of Unreal Tournament or anything that's got the Unreal level designer, or the Quake level designer, and make a shit ton of those levels and put them out, because they like game companies are more likely to grab you out of the mod community now because they see finished work, and they can see also the popularity of your modification to Half-Life 2 or to Unreal or Neverwinter Nights 2 if you're psychotic. Any other questions?
It's also the idea of not going into the game industry directly.
Right.
Like if you're a programmer,
Right.
being a database administrator on,
Absolutely. Well, yeah. The Right. I mean, yes, you can definitely go into another industry, be a programmer in there, but you have to be careful because of a lot of companies use proprietary languages and extensions that have no relevance to the outside. And when you pop back out and you're like, yeah, I programmed in this, and they're like, I have no idea what that is. And then you try to show it to them, and they're like, yeah, that's just weird.
That's my issue with Brew.
Yeah, not a lot of people know what Brew is.
I mean, it takes a lot of your own personal money to stay up on all these codes, all the different things. Your Unreal engines, you've got to buy it to show what you can do. It takes a lot of money for you to kind of say, this is what I've got.
Right, and
I mean,
but if you want to have like a pretty simple graphics engine to mess around with, if you ever want to do digital stuff, I highly recommend Unity. And also, there is a free version of UDK, which is the Unreal Engine, to mess around with.
There's also Game Maker and Torque just for free.
Right, Torque, Game Maker, and I was just talking about this the other day. It's not Connect, but it's I can't remember. There's another way. It's basically like a sandbox. Construct. That's what it is. Construct. Yeah. Questions, thoughts? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I also have very little programming experience, but I am going to change with some time.
Right.
Ideally, I'd want to go into the art side of it. And I guess my question is, right now I'm pretty decent as far as like character design goes. Should I try and like stay focused on that, say this is what I'm good at, or should I also try and also do backgrounds and try to build up my skills in other areas?
Yes and no. It's a good idea, but at the same time, you don't want to blend in with the crowd. So if you think that you've got good character design, then I would focus on that. But I would also maybe when you're doing your character design, try to throw a little background in there so you can get a little bit of that, but keep your main focus on that one area, because a lot of companies are looking for specialists. That's another downside for me is that, well, I don't have any art skills, but I have like design skills, level design, and programming. I don't excel at any of those. I can, but I don't like blow people away with my awesomeness, so that does not work in my favor. But education-wise, for you guys interested in possibly taking classes, there are a ton of universities that are starting to open up to some kind of game theory or game programming. If you want to go really hardcore, there are four really huge programs. One is DigiPen in Redmond, Washington. That's a 4-year program. You have the Guild Hall at SMU. I believe that's just a regular 4 years as well. You have Full Sail down in Orlando. Why are you shaking your head?
They're not accredited.
They are now.
It has changed very recently.
Accredited. See, they kind of, academically accredited, no, they were not. Industry accredited, yes, they were. So if you wanted to further your education, basically everybody would say, that you have an unorthodox degree, I don't recognize it. Unless they actually understand what Full Sail is, they're like, oh yeah. Like Georgia Tech will accept Full Sail. Another one is Carnegie Mellon has a really good design program as well. And then, like I said, there's a bunch of courses. There's online stuff. There's little workshops you can definitely go to. Unity does a lot of workshops. They did a bunch for the Georgia Game Developers Association. I don't know where they're doing them now, but yeah.
And a lot of these new for-profit colleges that have been popping up, the ones that I think of in Atlanta, Strayer, Atlanta International University, AIU, all these now have some kind of game developer, at least associate degrees where you can pay for that 2 years. I don't necessarily trust these for-profit because they're for-profit. They're more about making money than actually helping out the students, but that's just an own personal opinion. But there are all these things, and it's all about furthering your education, knowing more than the next guy. is really what it is.
Well, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why you go to those schools is for networking, because you could be in the class with the next superstar, the next Will Wright, who's the guy behind everything that has sim in front of it. You could be the next Sid Meier, whose claim to fame is Pirates and holy crap, Civilization. That's right. Man, I can't believe I blanked out the bigger one.
Glad you got Pirate there.
Yeah, I like that game.
I love that.
Yeah.
The DeVry also has a game
Right,
simulation.
thank you.
Yeah.
The thing about DeVry is that DeVry's original claim to fame is that they're a technical school.
Yeah.
They do programming, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering.
Right.
So when they added a game, they don't give a crap about game design,
Right.
game programming.
Right, absolutely. That's the other thing you got to watch out for, is that there is a huge difference between development and design and programming, because there's like a ton of different ways that can go. Design could be simply documentation, documentation, technical documents, game docs, game bibles once you publish a game. Development could be any number of things. It could be your graphics code. It could be this. It could be that. I mean, yep. Questions? Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Just curious, if you are like an artist with characters and something like that,
Yep.
I have no idea where to take my art to people that I can see.
Throw it on Deviant.
Yeah.
It's one of the places to do it, and then broadcast that you put it on Deviant or your own website. Once again, you really have to do the legwork. You got to find organizations that groups of artists that could maybe point you in the right direction. There's definitely forums and websites to check out, groups to hang out with. Yeah.
And once again, come to things like these with your work and say, this is what I've got. Bring your portfolio. Show people what you can and can't do. It tends to be a lot of these unorthodox things, but Deviant's a good place to do it, and just make sure that you know people out there and say, hey, I put my work here, go look at it. You may not always like their responses, because a lot of people, especially on the internet, tend to be a bunch of jerks, because their work is worse usually, and they need to make themselves feel better. So just ignore those people when they come out and just badmouth your work there, but just keep pushing it. Someone's going to say, hey, I really like that, I need something like this.
Or at the at the end of the day, you can also have people critique it in a constructive manner, which is awesome. I highly recommend it. There's going to be those people who will be like, yeah, that looks like crap. You should never do that again. Stop doing what you're doing. That's basically what I got when I threw up. I used to draw webcomics poorly, but I drew webcomics. And I threw it up on one of the Penny Arcade forum pages. This guy's like, this is total shit, man. You should never draw again. Just put up your pen. Sell your stuff. It's not worth it, man. You can't improve ever. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
And so and the internet breeds those people, but just keep working at it. Keep pushing. Keep going to these things. Put out your work. Let people know who you are. The internet's full of people who need this work. Sometimes you've got to do it for free.
Yep.
But you do it because eventually, if you do it enough for free, somebody's going to say, hey, I really like what you can do. I got some money. Can I pay you to do it?
And there's a lot of independent projects out there. You just got to go look for them. And they're definitely always looking for artists. Because the majority of those independent project guys are just code monkeys. They code. They have no art skill whatsoever. So that's probably your best bet to really get.
What type of art do you? We'll talk after.
We are blessed being in Atlanta with a lot of independent game companies like High Res, CCP, Xaviant. So if you're from the Greenville area and you really want to make a push to drive 2 hours, Atlanta's a great city. Come to Siege, we'll be there, and we already know some people. We can make some connections and try to get that to work.
And then there's always companies that you may not even know exist that are going to show up to Siege or to one of these other events through the gaming organizations.
I got kind of lucky as well. I've had a couple of developers that were in the game industry. I do PHP web development. I've also pushed some desktop applications to completion. I've never done AAA title or anything like that. I met one of these guys that worked for a company that has pushed out AAA titles. I'm signing on to non-disclosure. I can't talk about what I'm working on.
Yeah.
But I've got hands-on next-gen hardware.
Yeah.
And am working on a AAA title at this point.
Sweet.
And see, that's when you go out to these things to meet people. You meet somebody like you, and you may not be able to tell them what they're doing, but you can say, hey, I have somebody you might want to meet here, and you can give out a number. And you come to these things, see?
Especially if you need somebody
For voice work.
voices. Especially in a AAA title.
Yeah.
And it's fun too because I just helped them complete their next engine.
Yeah.
It's rather exciting.
Is it?
Oh, I'm sure.
It's exciting.
I was never very good with science and math things, so programming was never my thing. I'm very good at resume building and helping people know what their strengths and their weaknesses are and what looks good to people.
I'm a really good QA tester, apparently. At the end of the day, I mean, that's basically what I end up doing. I mean, for writing all these reviews, it's kind of a QA test, and then there are a bunch of independent developers out there who've reached out to me just to QA their game. Because I basically draw the line in the sand. I'll either QA your game or I'm going to review it. If I'm going to review it, I'm going to give you a number score. And I might give you, if I'm feeling nice that day, I'll give you a heads up of this is where I think your game's probably going to go, but I'm going to play it until completion. And some people will be arrogant enough to go, oh yeah, man, that's your low ball, and it'll be much better than that.
Anything else? It's probably actually good we end early because now we're getting run over by the
Cosplayers.
by the whoever these people are.
Cosplayers.
Ah, cosplayers.
It's a convention thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I'm not a convention person. I'm a behind the scenes kind of guy.
I'm a convention guy.
I know you're a convention guy. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Anything
But-
else?
Nope. Okay, so to wrap it up, we once again are Alter Confusion.
We've got our booth over there on
We
the
got a
edge.
booth
Most of
over
you guys
there,
have
so-
seen us.
Yeah, we've been playing games on the TV. We're like we said, we're based out of Atlanta. Our website is alteredconfusion.com. Come by, pick up a button. It's got the website right down there. And
We'll be back at 5 over there on
yes,
the
we'll be.
basketball court.
Our next talk is how the game industry is being destroyed. So
We're talking about how to get into it, and then we're talking about how to destroy it. So you can learn not to do it.
yes. So thank you for coming out, and of course, if you guys want more information, go to our website. Reach out to us. The emails go straight to me. I like getting emails. I like talking to individuals who are interested in games, designing games, whatever. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.